Welcome back to the iris2 video tutorials. In this video you are going to learn how to change the size of the displayed image. As you can see, this is the image I get from the iris level 2 dataset. And this is the size and the aspect that you get from the data as it is in the CCD. You can always change dynamically the size of this image. If I press plus, you will see that nothing happens. As I already mentioned in the previous video, what you need is to take the control of the show_iris2 model function on the IDL session and is not on the IDL session. So I'm gonna click on this window, and now as you can see here, I have the control on the IDL session. Okay, so now again I press plus, and as you can see the image has enlarged at 10% of the previous size. If I press again, it's gonna be 10% larger, and so on. If you want to shrink the image, now you can press minus. If you make the image too small, you are gonna lose the information that is displayed in the labels of the window. Again, you can enlarge the image pressing plus. As I mentioned, this is the data as they are in the CCD, but you can always change the aspect to a more natural aspect, to R seconds aspect, pressing A from R seconds. So I'm gonna press A, and now you have the data in 1 R second per pixel. More precisely is 1 pixel per R second, because now keeping this aspect, you can enlarge the image. I'm gonna press plus, and it's gonna enlarge to this image what is showing the natural aspect. In this case, now 1 R second is several pixels. Okay. Again, the image display has been enlarged, keeping the natural aspect of the image, and you can go through all the variables in the image, in the model atmosphere, sorry, pressing V. Okay. Well, as I told you in the previous video, I'm going to show you how to display other images. Because the level information of the input of this example is the maximum, the highest level information, number 2, you have the calibrated data in the structure, in the input structure. Therefore, you can show this data. To toggle between the model and the calibrated data, you are gonna press M. And as you can see here, I have another image, what is extremely dark, and is showing an intensity image in these radiation units. This is the original calibrated data. As you can see, it's very badly contrasted. And again, you can change the contrast. That means change the higher and the lower limit of the display image, just pressing H, J, K, and L. So I'm gonna decrease, and you suddenly start to see what is in this data. What you can see is a monochromatic image corresponding to the first wavelength sampled in the data. Again, you can move through the third dimension of this data cube. In this case, the third dimension is the sampled wavelength. So now I'm going to move along the third dimension, pressing Z or X. I'm going to press X to move higher along the third dimension. So I'm changing the wavelength, and in a point I will arrive to the K line in this particular example. As you can see, again, the image is very saturated, so I'm going to change the upper limit of the displayed image. There we go. It's changing, and maybe you want to play a little bit with the lower limit as well, so I'm going to increase the lower limit, pressing J. It might be a little bit slow because the increment in this case is very small. So keep pushing, and then you will have a very highly contrasted image. Of course, this is up to you how you want to display the image. What is interesting now is that keeping this image, I'm gonna lower a little bit the limits. This is too much, probably. Okay, there we go. Then, what is interesting is that you can easily toggle between the intensity monochromatic image and the model atmosphere variable. And you can play with the threshold to identify structures. So for example, now I can go to the electron density here, and then again I can change the threshold. This is too much here maybe, and try to identify interesting features in the image. This is always possible in those iris2model structures having a leveling for number 1 or number 2, because in these structures you always have the model atmosphere and the calibrated data. Again, you can change the model, the variable that you are displaying here, the temperature, for example, and change the threshold or move along the atmosphere and try to identify structures correlating with the temperature. Okay. As you can see, it's very easy to display both the calibrated data and the model atmosphere. In the following video, you will see how to display the profiles, the observed profiles, and inverted profiles. See you then.